Say hi, Cece. Say hi, Bells.
Hi, Bill.
No, you gotta say hi.
Hi.
I'm making some Italian cookies today, but this guy right here, he's gonna do all the dishes.
That's me.
Hi, Cece. My name's Nicole, and I'm calling because I'm concerned about a friend of mine. I dropped her off at her house at 2 in the morning last night because we were out of town together, and we were on the way back from the airport, and she's pregnant. And I haven't been able to get a hold of her this morning. She won't answer the door. She won't answer phone calls. She won't answer text messages.
What's her name?
Shanann Watts.
Alrighty, we do have a call in, Nicole. We'll have an officer come out that way as soon as we can.
Shanann, Bella, Celeste, if you're out there, just come back. Like, if somebody has her, just please bring her back. I need to see everybody. I need to see everybody again. This house is not complete without anybody here. Please bring her back.
These words, along with the desperate look on a father's face, quickly spread across America. All eyes turned to the Watts family, a seemingly perfect family, overflowing with happiness, now suddenly becoming the center of a shocking case that no one could have imagined. Today we will delve deep into the mind of Chris Watts, the man that all of America once trusted, sympathized with, and prayed for to find his family. The perfect husband that millions of women wished they could have. But behind that mask was a cold-blooded killer who strangled his 15-week pregnant wife, suffocated his 2 young daughters, and threw their bodies into the deep pits of death. This is not a horror movie. This is not fiction. This is the raw, painful truth that makes you question, how can you recognize a monster when they wear human skin? When looking at Shanann Watts' Facebook page, you would see a woman glowing with happiness. In the months before her disappearance, Shanann had posted hundreds of photos and videos showing loving moments between her husband and 2 daughters. But behind those brilliant smiles was the story of a woman who had endured much suffering. Shanann Zhuchek was born in 1984 in North Carolina, a strong, resilient woman who also carried within her a series of turbulent days. She went through the breakdown of her first marriage when she was very young, the disease lupus that ate away at her body day by day, and a car accident that nearly took her life. Doctors had once announced that her chances of having children were very low. Shanann fought tirelessly to rebuild a stable life, and carrying her 2 daughters was considered a miracle. Shanann worked hard, frequently traveling for business, and was once the model mother and perfect wife on social media. The pictures of a happy family, moments of the 2 children playing or baking together, made outsiders see only a fulfilled family. However, behind those moments were health concerns, financial pressure, and simmering conflicts with her mother-in-law. Born in 1985, Chris was a gentle, quiet man, introverted and seemingly calm. Colleagues once commented that he had an extraordinary memory, often calling him Rain Man because of his unusual ability to remember details. Chris's record was completely clean, no criminal history, no previous offenses, no signs of violence or aggression, making everyone believe he was the ideal husband, the exemplary father. But hidden behind that ordinary appearance was coldness and calculation, elements that would later become the cruel darkness that would devour the entire family. Bella Marie Watts, 4 years old, smart like her mother, always asking questions. The little girl was close to Shanann, often appearing in Thrive videos. Celeste Catherine Watts, 3 years old, was Daddy's girl, cheerful and always laughing. The last videos Shanann posted showed the 2 happiest girls in the world. They ran and played in the house, having fun, always smiling when they saw the camera. No one knew that these innocent eyes would witness the most horrific scene, their biological father becoming a murderer. Shanann Watts' Facebook page was a perfect picture of family happiness. 1,539 posts about a good life, thousands of adorable photos, videos of daughters laughing. But social media is a double-edged mirror. It reflects what we want the world to see while hiding what we dare not face. Behind those happy family photos was financial burden with $70,000 in debt. Behind those radiant smiles was tension with the in-laws. Behind those emotional status updates was a marriage cracking day by day. And most importantly, behind the image of the model husband was someone secretly developing feelings for another woman. Social media had turned the Watts family into actors in their own lives, and when the play ended, only tragedy remained. 2018 should have been the happiest year for the Watts family. Shanann was pregnant with their third child baby, Nico. On Facebook, she constantly shared sweet moments of pregnancy, images of Chris caring for their two daughters, and sweet words for her husband. But reality was completely different. Behind those smiles on social media, the marriage had begun to crack from the early months of the year. Chris became distant and cold with his wife. He no longer texted to check in as before, no longer cared about Shanann's Thrive business, and wasn't even excited about having another child. Shanann clearly felt this change. She shared with friends that Chris seemed to become a completely different person. The husband who was once gentle and caring had now become indifferent and evasive. When Shanann tried to talk about the future, about preparing for the baby to be born, Chris only responded with short, cold answers. In June 2018, while Shanann was in North Carolina with Bella and Celeste visiting family, Chris Watts met Nicole Kessinger at the Anadarko Petroleum office. He brought a broken gas gauge for her to fix. And that was the first time they talked. After just a few meetings at the office, Chris fell into an affair with Nicole Kessinger. Nicole knew full well that Chris had a family, but Chris painted the story that he and Shanann were on the verge of divorce. He promised Nicole a new future, a free life, without constraints, without family burdens. That was the first lie, and it wouldn't be the last. Nicole Kessinger, 30 years old, geological engineer at Anadarko, beautiful and independent. She wasn't looking for an affair with a married colleague, but Chris had woven the perfect story. He told me he had 2 children, was in the process of separating from his wife. From what I knew, that was about to be finalized, Nicole told police. In Nicole's eyes, Chris was a gentle, devoted man who was trapped in a loveless marriage. She had no idea that those words were just a web of lies. A notable detail is that on July 24, 2018, Nicole Googled the phrase, "Man I'm having affair with says will leave wife." This shows that despite trusting Chris, she still had doubts about his real situation. Throughout the time in North Carolina, Shanann constantly tried to contact Chris to improve their relationship. She sent long messages, shared feelings, suggested they should go to marriage counseling when she returned. She even booked a getaway trip for the couple to Aspen, hoping to mend their relationship. But Chris's reaction was completely different from Shanann's expectations. He replied briefly and coldly, sometimes not responding to messages at all. In video calls, Chris appeared indifferent, evasive, when Shanann asked about the family's future. Shanann's friends remembered that she was very hurt by her husband's change. Shanann shared that Chris had become like a stranger. She couldn't understand what had happened, why the husband who once loved her and the children had become so heartless. On social media, Shanann continued posting happy family images. But now, these posts were no longer natural sharing of joy, but her way of trying to convince herself and everyone around her that the family was still okay. In 2015, they had to file for bankruptcy with total debts of over $70,000, mainly from credit cards and student loans. Chris, with a salary of $63,000 a year from Anadarko, felt suffocated by this financial burden. Having another child made the pressure even greater. Meanwhile, Nicole Kessinger, with stable income and no family to support, represented the free, unbound life that Chris craved. In early August 2018, a cruel plan had formed in Chris's mind. He didn't want a divorce because he would lose half the assets, though not much, have to pay child support, and Nicole might leave him when she learned the truth about the marriage. In conversations with Nicole, Chris increasingly showed his desire for a completely fresh start. He talked about travel plans, about the future life they would have together. But to have that, Chris needed to solve the current family problem. On August 10th, Chris told his co-workers that he would take time off on Monday the following week to take his family to the airport. On August 11th, he began Googling strange topics. When does a pregnant woman know the baby's gender? How long does it take for a body to decompose? These searches showed Chris had intentions to kill his wife and children beforehand. He wasn't someone who killed in hot anger or impulsively. This was a calculated, cold, and cruel plan. On August 12, 2018, Shanann flew from North Carolina to Denver with Bella and Celeste. She still hoped to save the marriage, still believed Chris was just going through a difficult period and they could overcome it together. On the flight, Shanann texted her best friend, "I'm going to try to talk to Chris tonight. I hope everything will be okay." But Chris had other plans. When Shanann's plane landed at 1:48 a.m. on August 13th, she didn't know she only had a few hours to live. She didn't know that the husband she once loved was waiting for her at home with the intention to kill her and their 2 daughters. The marriage that Shanann was trying to save had died long ago. And now Chris was about to turn it into a tragedy that all of America would never forget.
Shanann Watts returned from Arizona at 1:48 a.m., exhausted after her final business trip with the Thrive team. Neighbor Nathan Trinastic's security camera captured the last moment she was alive, stepping down from Nicole Atkinson's Lexus, carrying a pink suitcase filled with gifts for her daughters and hopes that her marriage could be saved. She didn't know that inside 2,825 Saratoga Trail, the husband who once vowed to love forever was waiting not to welcome her, but to execute a cruel plan he had been harboring for weeks. 30 minutes after the door closed behind Shanann, the tragedy began. When she tried to talk about Nicole Kessinger, about saving their marriage, about baby Nico, who was about to be born, Chris transformed into a monster. He climbed onto B-bed, lay on her back, and strangled her with his bare hands. Shanann fought desperately in the final 4 minutes of her life. Her fingernails clawed at Chris's neck and face, leaving scratches and police would later discover. But the strength of a pregnant woman couldn't fight off the man who once vowed to protect her. When Shanann stopped moving, baby Nico, the 15-week-old son, also died with his mother in her womb. Bella, the intelligent 4-year-old with big round eyes, woke up because she heard strange noises. When the little girl entered her parents' bedroom and saw Mommy not feeling well, Chris had to quickly make up a story. Mommy don't feel good, but Bella, with a child's keen intuition, sensed something terrible was happening. The little girl followed her father down to the garage, saw her mother lying motionless in the truck bed, and asked the question that would haunt Chris for life. "What happened to Mommy, Daddy?" Chris didn't answer. Instead, he put both Bella and Celeste in the truck with their mother's body, the final journey from which the 2 girls would never return.
While most of Frederick was still deep in sleep, Chris performed the final moves of his cruel plan. Security cameras inadvertently captured him backing his truck into the garage. Completely unusual behavior since Chris had never done this in the 3 years living there. 3 trips from house to truck. 3 times loading items into the truck bed. From the camera angle, you couldn't see clearly what Chris was transporting, but this was the moment he was taking his entire family to their final resting place. At 10:18 a.m., after finishing burying his family at Servi 319, Chris returned to work at Anadarko Petroleum like any normal day. He texted Nicole Kessinger, laughed and talked with colleagues, pretending nothing had happened. Meanwhile, Nicole Atkinson, Shanann's best friend, began worrying when she couldn't contact Shanann. The 10 a.m. prenatal appointment was missed. Phone calls went unanswered. Text messages got no response. At 1:40 p.m., Nicole called Frederick Police with a trembling voice. "I need to report a serious missing persons case." When police notified Chris about his family being missing, he immediately left the office to go home, looking panicked and confused. In the following hours, Chris displayed the amazing acting skills of a psychopath. "I don't understand what happened," Chris told police, his eyes red from crying. "Shanann and the kids have disappeared. I tried calling my wife all morning, but she didn't answer. But when neighbor Nathan Trinastic showed the security camera footage, Chris's reaction betrayed him. Body cam recorded him becoming restless, sweating, constantly shifting his weight when he saw himself on video at 5:18 a.m. Standing in front of 2825 Saratoga Trail, under the lights of Denver 7 News cameras, Chris gave his pleading performance for his family to return. Shanann, Bella, Celeste. If you're out there and hearing this, please come home. You're making Daddy worry so much. His voice trembled as he continued. If someone is holding them, please bring them back. They didn't do anything wrong. But body language analysis experts detected something suspicious. Chris avoided looking directly at the camera, glanced around, and most importantly, he didn't mention bring them home safely, but only bring them back. Just 24 hours after his performance before the media, Chris Watts went from pitiful husband to suspect number 1. The FBI officially joined the investigation, transforming the case from missing persons search to murder investigation. Every action Chris had taken in the past 24 hours was being analyzed thoroughly, and every small detail began not to match the story he told. 1:48 a.m. Shanann was brought home by Nicole. Then complete silence until 5:18 a.m. when Chris appeared with completely abnormal behavior. He drove his truck into the garage, something he had never done in 3 years of living there. 3 trips from house to truck, loading items no one could identify from the camera angle. While the outside camera recorded the abnormality, inside the house also told a similar story. Forensic experts found the main bed showed signs of disturbance and small oil stains on the sheets. However, there were no clear signs of struggle or forced entry. This would become an important clue later. Most importantly, all of Shanann's personal belongings remained intact, proving she never left the house voluntarily. But the most important discovery came from investigating Chris's private life. Police discovered he had an affair with Nicole Kessinger since June 2018, a secret he had completely concealed. Text messages between Chris and Nicole showed they were still communicating normally even on August 13th, as if nothing unusual had happened. This was the final piece to create a clear motive. With full evidence in hand, at 11 a.m., police invited Chris to Frederick Police Department. The interrogation was conducted by Detective Dave Baumhover and CBI agent Tammy Lee, with support from the FBI experts with years of experience dealing with liars. Chris still tried to maintain the old story. Shanann said she would take the daughters to play with a friend. He went to work normally, came home, and found no one. But when investigators began asking for details, Chris's story immediately revealed large holes. Agent Lee asked him to describe exactly the conversation with Shanann that morning. Chris answered hesitantly. She said, she would take the girls to play with a friend. I think so. Detective Baumhover immediately pressed, "Do you think, or are you certain?" Chris became even more flustered. I don't remember exactly every word. These contradictions weren't coincidental. The investigators knew that truth-tellers would remember important details clearly, especially the last conversation with loved ones. Liars would be vague and change their stories. Chris was falling into the very trap he thought he could avoid. At 3:30 p.m. the same day, police proposed the next step that would decide Chris's fate, a polygraph test. Chris agreed, perhaps still believing he could outsmart this technology. But this was his biggest mistake. The polygraph test results were disastrous for Chris. He scored 18, a result that clearly showed he was lying. Throughout 6 hours of interrogation, Chris Watts displayed the amazing acting skills of a psychopath. Every answer, every tear, every gesture of pain was carefully calculated. "I love my wife and children," Chris sobbed in front of the camera. "I would do anything to bring them home safely." But behavioral analysis experts recognized suspicious signs. Chris never called his wife and children by name when talking about them, instead, always using pronouns they, them. He constantly covered his mouth when speaking, a sign of hiding the truth. Chris's eyes never shed real tears, only crying sounds without tears. But when investigators used sophisticated psychological tactics, creating an escape route for Chris by implying Shanann might have harmed the girls. Chris told his second lie, "I saw Bella lying on the bed, not breathing. Then I saw Shanann strangling Celeste. I was so angry I strangled Shanann to save Celeste, but it was too late." This story was psychologically perfect for Chris, transforming him from a cold-blooded killer into a father forced to avenge his daughters. But experienced investigators recognized this as still a sophisticated lie. After requesting to speak with his father, Chris confessed to Ronnie Watts that he had killed Shanann, but claimed it was because she had strangled the two girls. "I panicked and had to do the same to her," he said in the recording. After confessing, his shoulders visibly slumped. But that was just the final lie of a born killer. The horrific truth would be revealed in the detailed confession later. However, with this confession, Chris provided the information police needed most, the location of the bodies at Cervi 319. On the morning of August 16th, with Chris's guidance, the convoy of police and FBI headed to Cervi 319, a desolate area with massive oil wells, 40 minutes drive from the city. When they arrived, the scene the investigation team witnessed would haunt them for life. Shanann was found in a shallow grave, buried about 40 feet from two massive oil tanks. She was still wearing the purple nightgown, the outfit she planned to wear when talking to Chris about saving their marriage. Her wedding ring was still on her finger, like a painful reminder of the vow, "Until death do us part." But the truly horrific scene lay in the two oil tanks. Bella and Celeste were found 20 feet deep under the black, crude oil. Removing the girls' bodies from the oil tanks required using cranes and took many hours. When this work was performed, many police officers, despite being accustomed to horrific crime scenes, had to leave the scene because they couldn't bear it. As soon as forensic experts began preliminary examinations, Chris's story was immediately exposed as completely false. Autopsy results showed all died from asphyxiation by strangulation, no exceptions. There was no evidence, however small, that Shanann ever harmed her daughters. On the contrary, all forensic evidence pointed to one horrific truth: Chris had lied from beginning to end. In November 2018, Chris pleaded guilty to all charges to avoid the death penalty. 3 counts of first-degree murder, Shanann, Bella, Celeste, 2 counts of murdering an unborn child baby, Nico, 1 count of unpremeditated murder, and 3 counts of tampering with a deceased body. Chris received 5 life sentences without possibility of parole, plus an additional 84 years for other charges. Chris Watts is currently serving his sentence at Dodge Correctional Institution in Wisconsin. He will never be released, will die within those cold walls, just like what he did to his family. But perhaps that's still too lenient a punishment for a killer who murdered his pregnant wife and 2 young daughters with his own hands, the only people in this world who truly loved him. During the sentencing hearing in November 2018, the Yarzuchek family, the maternal family of Bella and Celeste, delivered deeply moving and resilient statements before the court. Frank Zuchek, Shanann's father.
How dare you take the lives of my daughters Shanann, Bella, Celeste, and Nico. I trusted you to take care of them, not kill them. and they also trusted you. And I love them every day of my life. Prison is too good for you. This is hard to say, but may God have mercy on your soul. I hope you enjoy your new life. It's nothing like the one you had out here.
Most remarkably, the Zuchek family did not demand the death penalty for Chris. Frank Zuchek said he believed Chris had told the truth about the murders because I think it's eating him up inside. They wanted Chris to spend the rest of his life in prison to contemplate his crimes. The Chris Watts case not only shocked America but attracted worldwide attention. Thousands of analysis videos about the case were uploaded to YouTube, garnering millions of views. The case became a hotly debated topic on social media, forums, and true crime podcasts worldwide. The happy images of the Watts family on Facebook were compared with the brutal truth, sparking discussions about social masks and how to recognize dangerous signs in relationships. The Chris Watts case is not just a family tragedy, it has become a mirror reflecting the dark sides of society, obsession with criminals, victim blaming, and how social media can hide the truth behind perfect images. The Chris Watts case is painful proof. Monsters sometimes don't hide in the shadows, but live right beside us. Chris Watts, the model father, the ideal husband in the eyes of thousands, proved that the face of evil can be the most ordinary face. He had no criminal history, no clear signs of violence. This forces us to confront a frightening question. If Shanann, who lived with Chris for 8 years, couldn't recognize her husband's true nature, how can we protect ourselves? Chris became a symbol of absolute cruelty and selfishness. He didn't kill his wife and children in rage or due to mental illness. Chris killed them for the most cruel reason. He wanted a more convenient new life. The Watts family story reminds us of the value of love, loyalty, and the sanctity of life. Love, genuinely don't let social media obscure what's truly important. Listen and observe when someone changes, suddenly show concern, and ask questions. Cherish family. Those who love you unconditionally are a priceless gift. Trust your instincts if you feel afraid. Seek help. Shanann, Bella, Celeste, and baby Nico are gone, but the love they had for each other will live forever. Let their story remind us, love each day as if it's your last, because we never know what tomorrow brings. And remember, real monsters can be the person right next to you. Always stay alert, vigilant, and protect those you love. Comment below the video. If this story was helpful, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and share with those who need to know.